What do
Just
you
don't
think
want him to take
about
any more damage.
what do you think about Jake Paul versus Anderson?
Ooh, Anderson Silva. Okay, so yeah, that's a perfect way to almost finish up the show. Um, I think it's a very interesting fight, and I give mad props to Jake for taking this fight. I think this is a harder opponent than Hakeem Rahman Jr. I think it's a harder opponent than Tommy Fury. However, Anderson Silva is 47 years old. His chin is not going to be the same, you know?
No.
And I think that's clearly what his team sees in that opponent. I think he sees that like would it be too hard to finish this guy? Like they may be like, okay, like if it like it goes to decision, he'll lose. But I think they just have faith that Jake Paul could finish Anderson Silva since he's old and all that. So I think that's why they took the fight. But
Yeah.
I'm mad props, and I also think the reason they also another reason they took the fight was because they saw how bad the Tyron Woodley 2 fight did. They saw
Right.
how little paper tickets Hasim Rahman was selling. I think they needed an opponent, a big name like Anderson Silva, or else they weren't going to sell anything. And I think that would really like lower the value a lot of Jake Paul. So I think that's the reason they booked the. That's the main reason they booked the fight. But yeah. What are your thoughts and who do you have? What are your early predictions?
I agree with that. I think that's why they booked the fight because, they with Jake Paul now, because we're getting more adapted to seeing him as a boxer and not just a YouTuber. And I understand why fighters call them YouTubers because they're trying to just diss him a little bit. But
Yeah,
I basically see Jake Paul as a boxer now,
yeah.
and
At this point, yeah, for sure.
I like the matchup. I think both men could win. I don't think it's an easy fight for both of them. I think that Jake Paul's taken a lot of time off, and because he's young, he's going to improve a lot. I think that Anderson Silva is older, and when you get to that age, father time could hit you fast. I'm not saying it has, because Anderson Silva's last fight, he looked incredibly impressive against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Right, and
Yeah. Oh, that was
I,
his last. Yeah, that was one of his last fights. He's fought I think 5 times. He's won all five. So
yeah.
he's
So
had.
Anderson
Yeah,
Silva, boxing wise, is
he's good. He's a
really
good
good.
boxer. Yeah,
The
yeah,
only the only thing that with me and Anderson is he could at any moment, just at any month, start to get old. And Anderson's
get
one of
knocked
those
out.
guys like a Yoel Romero where he could just be really good up until his late 40s. And I hope he is because I'd like to see Anderson perform at his best. I am gonna lean towards Anderson Silva, assuming he's as good as he was in his last fight. Um, but I don't know how many rounds they're going to make this. Jake Paul is the one who decides on the rules.
Yeah.
And because Jake Paul is the one who decides on the rules, it could be in his favor. And, if it's an 8 round fight, I'm picking Silva unless he gets KO'd. If it's a 12 round fight, I'm picking Silva because the thing is, if you go down to, okay, both guys are skilled. Silva's probably more technical. He's probably a better boxer. I mean, he's a fucking amazing boxer. He's a good striker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's had a good
Yeah.
boxing career. He's had a better
And
boxing career than Tommy Fury, you know?
exactly. I think that's the thing. I think that, I've said Tommy Fury might beat Jake Paul, but I think Jake Paul could beat Tommy Fury. And I'm going to pick Anderson Silva. I think he's just going to be too much, but I really think it's just based on experience. And Anderson Silva has just seen it all. And, I just have to pick Anderson Silva. That's my pick. I like the matchup. It's exciting. I'll watch. I could see Jake Paul landing a KO, but Anderson Silva, like, he doesn't have a bad chin. He doesn't get knocked out. He's
He's got
been
good
knocked out, but
defense, yeah.
like, every fighter, if they have a long career, has been knocked out. And he's
Yeah.
got amazing defense. He rolls with punches.
Counter
He's
punching is
he's got
ridiculous.
power. He's dangerous. He's not a small guy. He's fought at light heavyweight before. Massive respect to Jake Paul and Anderson for taking this fight. And you know what? I'm gonna pick Anderson. So who are you gonna pick? I'm gonna pick
I'm
Anderson Silva by decision.
I'm gonna pick Jake Paul
Okay.
by 6 round or fifth or 6 round KO. I think
How many rounds do we know how many rounds
I
it'll
think
be?
they're gonna do 8 rounds. Because all of Jake Paul's fights have been 8 rounds. So I'm assuming it'll just be the same. So and I just think the thing is I think Jake, you just have to trust Jake Paul's team until he loses because his team is so smart. They give him these matchups. that are so favorable for him. And like, although like it looks like Anderson Silva should clearly win this fight, like his team must know something that we don't know, you know?
Yeah.
So until that fails, I'm gonna have to just keep riding Jake Paul, you know? And I think he KOs Anderson Silva in the first 6 rounds. And yeah, I mean, I think Anderson Silva will finally start slowing down a little bit. I mean, like he's already slowed down like since his career ended, but at least like start really showing real father time. And I think he's gonna
Yeah.
get knocked out by Jake Paul. I think it's gonna be unfortunate, it's gonna be sad to see, but
So
I
you
just
think
feel like
Father Time? You think that he gets KO'd due to Father Time, or you think he gets KO'd because Jake Paul will be the better boxer?
I don't think Jake Paul will be the better boxer that night. By any means. I just think that that one punch knockout will come at some point. Jake Paul, like whether
He
you
hits
think he's
hard.
a great whether you think he's a good boxer or not, he definitely is gifted in the power department. You
Yeah,
know,
he
he
is. He's
definitely
got good
has
power.
power. Um, and I think you put Jake Paul, even no matter how good Anderson Silva is as a striker, you put a guy with that kind of power against a 47-year-old, what do you think is gonna happen? You know what I mean? Like, so I kind of just that's kind of what I'm leaning towards Jake Paul knocking him out. I think at some point he'll find that big punch, and I don't even think it takes like I think it's just inevitable in my opinion. Like I just think that he won't be able to like Anderson Silva won't be able to take many of those shots. So I think at some point, I think as the fight goes on, Anderson will get knocked out. So
I just think, the way I could see that. I could see him knocking him out, but the reason why I'm not picking it to happen is because Jake Paul knocked out Tyron Woodley, who's a wrestler. He knocked out Ben Askren, who's a wrestler. These aren't high level strikers. And Tyron Woodley in the UFC was known for his power. He was known for
yeah, that was
being
it.
a big
Yeah.
puncher, but he was old. He lost, and if you rely on your power and your explosivity, when you get old, you lose it. Anderson Silva has never relied on his power. He's never
No.
relied on his sheer force and explosivity. He's always relied on his skill. And Jake Paul has fought nobody even close to the level of skill that Anderson Silva is. No one comes close. And that's the thing. It's like, sure, he's older, but then skill comes into, and that's the thing. It's like Woodley was old, so he no longer had the same power. He no longer was as quick. A
Yeah,
prime
that's a good
Tyron
point.
Woodley, in my opinion, would have beat Jake Paul. A
Yeah,
prime
I
Tyron
agree
Woodley.
with you. I agree with you. I agree
But
with you.
Anderson Silva doesn't have to rely on that power. And sure, he doesn't have the same reflexes as he did when he was younger, of course. But I think it'll be enough to get by Jake Paul, who is a decent boxer, but it's not like Anderson Silva has to dodge the best boxer on the planet at that
No,
weight class.
not
It's
not
what I
at
mean.
all.
So I
Yeah.
I, I think Anderson Silva wins. I could see Jake Paul winning. I could see Jake Paul knocking Anderson out early, but if I had to bet, I would go with if this fight doesn't end due to a knockout, I'm going with Silva.
Yeah, I think in that sense, yeah, for sure. But what do you think Jake Paul's team sees in Anderson that they think that they can exploit? Do you
I
think it's
think
the
they
age?
see. I think that they see that Anderson's old. He may just really love the payday. He may not want to train so hard. And if we crack him, we could put him out. And also, it's it's a high risk but higher reward. So yeah,
What what
that's what I
what but
think.
what do you think happens if Jake Paul loses though? Like, do
If
you think
Jake
his
Paul
boxing
loses,
career is
if Jake
over?
Paul loses, then it's Tommy Fury or Diaz or someone like that.
Or KSI maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
If Jake Paul loses, he'll have other options. But
do you think
KSI
people will really
sucks
tune in?
compared to
Do you think
Jake
people will
Paul.
really like tune in though to like a Jake Paul fight if he loses? Like, I
If he
just feel like
fights
there's.
KSI, they will.
But do you like other than that? You think that, like do you think that's what I'm just thinking is like
If it's
Jake
Tommy
Paul's.
Fury, then it'll not have a lot of pay per view buys. That's the thing. It's like if Jake Paul loses, his
It's
stock
done,
goes
in my
down.
opinion. I think it's done. If Jake Paul loses, I think
Well,
his
he could
boxing
still
thing is
make
done.
more money than like a Sean Strickland, but like
But still, you know, I mean, like relative, like just for him,
it's
like
just
you know, I
yeah,
mean,
it's
it's
not
not
worth
worth
it
it
at that
for
point.
him. Yeah. So I just can't see the Jake Paul experiment being done yet. I can't. I don't know. I think that
I think it could come to it. We'll see. I think it's gonna. When is this fight? October.
Probably that's what they said, October. They didn't say the exact
I
dates. I don't
hope
even
that
think
they
they've
didn't
announced
pay
it yet, though.
Anderson Silva to take a dive because if they don't, it'll be a good fight.
I don't think they would do that. I just think that they know something about Anderson that we just don't know. I think that
But what
has
is
to be
there?
what
What is
the
there so mysterious? It's like we have tape. We know how good Anderson out is. The only thing that they would know that we wouldn't know is if there was some under the table deal. It's not like there's no. Listen, there could be some kind of um some kind of pattern Anderson Silva has with the striking, but
yeah, or something like that
like
where like
Jake Paul's team wouldn't be the first people to ever pick that up.
yeah, but
Everyone that's Anderson Silva has been fighting for a long time. Opponents have been watching tape on him for a long time.
it could
He's
be like
just hard to
could be
hit.
something that they think that Jake Paul could exploit, like with his power, and then if it lands, then it'll put him out. So I think that could be
Yeah.
the case. I just like I said, until Jake Paul loses, I just can't bet against him. No matter how hard the opponent seems,
Yeah.
it's still hard to bet against a
Wait, so
guy
you're
like,
telling me you wouldn't bet? Would you bet against him if he fought Israel Adesanya?
no, like I'd bet on Izzy, but like he wouldn't take that fight. So any fight that Jake Paul takes, I'm gonna have to bet on him until he loses. Like I just think he's got such a good team around him, and like I just don't think that they're gonna put him in a position where he
I
can
get
really
that,
like
but that's
to
the thing.
lose.
It's like if the thing I know
It's
people say that
boxing.
and they're like
It's
Jake Paul
not.
would
It's
not take a fight that he would lose, but like then you also kind of have to assume that there might be something dirty going on behind the scenes because if there's not, then
or
a
he's just a
fight
lot better
is
than we
just as
think,
simple as a fight.
or he's just a lot better than we think he is. Like he could be. He could have really improved his game, and
Could have.
like what if he's like training with like I know he said and his team said he's training with these like pro boxers who are like world champions. Like what if he's like kicking like what if he's like dominating some of these pro boxers, and like we just like haven't seen him fight in a while, or he
Yeah,
just
no,
had
he
two
could,
bad
he
fights
could,
with like
he could
Woodley,
win. I'm not saying he can't win, but I am saying I'm not saying he can't win. I'm not saying that he could definitely improve. Um, I mean, I'm excited for the fight. I
Oh,
think
dude,
we're both
I'm
excited.
thrilled. I just hope it finally. I hope it happens though. Like
Be
based
interesting to
on
see the build up because Anderson is such a nice guy and he has a broken English. Um, I don't know if Jake Paul is going to trash talk him.
I don't think he would. I don't
I
think he
don't
would.
think
And
he. I mean,
doesn't need to. Doesn't need to. That fight will sell regardless of trash talk or not.
yeah,
Like that's what's good. That's what's good about it. And I do you think this fight breaks 1 million pay-per-views?
hell no.
Think it does like 800,000? Yeah.
No, no, I don't think this does anywhere near 800,000. I think this does, listen,
500.
at best, 500.
Really? I mean,
Because
Woodley won did
think about it.
400 or
Jake Paul's
500.
audience is much younger than like even the UFC average age audience. And the reason why the pay per views are going down, aside from the fact that they're not as stacked and they're not that good, is because people are streaming fights. Like people know how to save money, they're streaming fights. That's the thing. It's like Jake Paul, Anderson Silva, it's not that enticing. And Jake Paul, people are less hyped about him. He's not as big as he even Jake Paul on social media is actually gone down in fame
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
throughout the past few years. And
Yes.
that's the thing. I think at best this is 500K. I
500.
don't I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think it comes close to a million. Again, there aren't many UFC dream cards that come close to a million.
No.
Jake Paul versus Connor hits a million. Other than that,
What
him and
about
Floyd,
Jake Paul versus KSI? Jake Paul versus KS.
that
But I
doesn't
mean,
hit a
that
million
would
because everyone's going to stream that.
also probably be on Days In, and that would be a little bit cheaper. So I think that would be a little bit different. But that's what I don't understand about Jake Paul. I think like having his pay-per-views cost a regular $60 is such an L for him, because I think if he made it like $40, he'd sell way more pay-per-views and end up
Or
making more
just
money,
stream it. I'm sure they could make money by ads streaming,
Yeah.
like
I
a
just don't
ESPN Plus type of deal.
like nobody's like wants to is gonna pay $60 to watch Jake Paul fight. Like it's just
No.
like, you know what I mean? Like it's yeah, and like a lot of boxers, I think, like, and you see in the UFC too, like no, these pay-per-view prices are just way too high now. And I think it's only gonna get worse and worse with the streaming. So I think that the UFC and boxing, everything has to come up with something else where like they can avoid that and actually make the money. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
was like maybe like eventually getting TV deals or something, like just something. I don't know because they're gonna have to definitely change something. Like, as you said, like there's kids watching the stuff and they're clever. Like
Yeah.
they're clever. So you're gonna have to like change something up, or else you're just gonna be losing money. So it'll be interesting to see like in years to come, like what the UFC, what boxing will do about all this streaming. So
Yeah.
yeah.